What if your job was to recruit barely legal teenagers and train them to become porn stars and sex workers? Onlyfans has quickly become one of the world's biggest platforms for porn. Does it empower women, or is it modern-day exploitation disguised as liberation? And what's the hidden cost of feeding endless fetishes? How is it shaping our dating culture, society, and the minds of the next generation? On this episode of The News and You, we're exposing the dark truth behind OnlyFans. I speak with Victoria Sinis, a former OnlyFans recruiter for an Australian agency who likens it to a modern-day pimp, built on grooming girls for profit. I'm Eleisha Foon, journalist, storyteller, and I believe everyone you walk past has a story, and that story could change your life. So let's crack it open to discover the news in you. OnlyFans has taken the world by storm, with more than 3.5 million creators worldwide. It launched in 2016 to decentralize social media with the idea of creating small paid communities behind a paywall. But by 2020, it had exploded into one of the world's largest porn platforms. Today, over 80% of OnlyFans is adult content. It's user-generated and monetized through subscriptions, tips, and gives fans direct access to creators. Most of those creators are based in the United States. 3.7 million creators are women, while just over 700,000 are men. But how did Victoria Sinis find herself working inside this hidden world she's now committed to exposing?
I was approached by a very close personal friend of mine to help them build this thing called an OnlyFans agency. And so I guess the context of why I was asked to be a part of this agency is my background is in business and startups and marketing. I'd actually just come off the bat of working for one of my other really close personal friends in hospitality and helping her to build her businesses. The reason they started an OnlyFans agency is because they already had very good friends in the OnlyFans industry. And those people had agencies and were complaining about their agencies. So this person was like, oh, well, they have like an exceptional educational background, incredibly intelligent person. And they're like, well, why don't we just start one? We've got girls that are in OnlyFans that are quite well known already. They have big platforms. This person, just a genius. So can do anything. And then they were like, well, Vic, you're actually the one who has business background. Would you be interested in helping us? And I was like, yes, I need to get out of hospitality. I didn't really know what OnlyFans was. I had loose connections to people that were in OnlyFans. I didn't really have a deeper understanding than like, oh, I see this all the time and, it's all over social media and I think you can make a bunch of money. I think people just sell their feet on there. And so I was like, okay, with the limited lens and perspective that I have, this seems like it's a positive. It seems like it's liberating. It seems like these people make a lot of money and they're happy. So I was like, okay, cool, let's go for it.
Within weeks, Victoria was managing accounts for girls and onboarding new clients, young women who brought in work for the agency.
OnlyFans agencies exist to basically maximize profits by managing and running the girls' accounts. So if we can now understand loosely that the allure of OnlyFans is instant messaging and video and photo content being sent to people, well, again, if we go back and say that we have this girl that perhaps has, a big platform on Instagram and she's funneling all of her followers from Instagram to OnlyFans, well, she can't facilitate all of these conversations. So that's why she offsets all that work and gives it to an agency. So I guess element number one of an OnlyFans agency is account management. Your role as an account manager is to basically onboard the girl And so the onboarding process looks like this thing called a questionnaire. And the reason why you have a questionnaire is because you want as much information and as much detail as possible about the girl. So this had literally everything you can think of. You do this questionnaire, it's all this information. You have these things called levels, and you have to tick what level of content you're comfortable doing. So basically what level of porn you're comfortable doing. From there, a brief is created. And so this brief is then given to these things called chatters. If you're just jumping on OnlyFans, filming all this content, but you're not promoting it, well, how are you going to get paid? So that's what I think is a huge illusion, that it's just easy money. You just jump on and you're going to get super rich and it's super easy. And it's like, well, no, that's actually not true or accurate in any capacity.
But the real engine behind these agencies is much darker than you think. Agencies hire people known as chatters, men in the Philippines who are paid just a few dollars an hour to pose as young female creators. If you're paying for an exclusive chat, chances are you could be sexting with another man or even AI.
So chatters are people that you hire from predominantly like third world countries, and they'll put people in houses so they all have to live together and just sit there like sexting all day. But from a employee perspective, I think that we had hired at one point, there was at least 20 chatters at the agency. So my role was basically to make girls go as viral as possible, as quickly as possible, and build out all of that. Because again, what people think is that I can just jump onto OnlyFans and no one will know, and it's in the shadows and I'll make all this money. And that's not realistic, because you need to pull subscribers from somewhere, and their role is a commission role. So they are to make as much money as possible on the accounts. So they would get like a quota. So we had at our agency like a spreadsheet. And so you would take like the average wage of like the OnlyFans girl, and basically kind of be like, okay, if this is the goal for what we want to hit, how much money needs to be made every single day per customer. And so you would have these quotas that you have to hit. You would log onto your shift, and with OnlyFans, so because technically you're not allowed to have other people on the account, you have to plug in through back-end ways. So these people plug in through back-end ways on like different types of software. They log into multiple girls' accounts, and they have the briefs of all the girls, and then they just sit there and communicate with subscribers all day. They'll outreach to them and like check in on them. They do these things called pay-per-view. So they have to make sure that the pay-per-views are going out. Are all the custom requests fulfilled? Are people being responded to in a timely manner?
As Victoria went deeper, she says her job was to hunt for girls who already posed provocatively online. They needed to have a big following, and sometimes the agency would lure them in by first offering a modelling contract, and then pivoting to an offer to work with them on OnlyFans. The promise is seductive. Look hot, travel, pose with luxury bags, live a dream life. But in reality, most girls are actually making less than $200 a month.
I was seeing all this stuff that we're like so desensitized to. So all of the like bikini lingerie content, like stuff that you just see on Instagram nowadays, which is hypersexualized. Anyways, so what we had noticed though, as we were going through this process, as kind of mentioned, the whole allure is this conversation element. We had these chatters that were put on the accounts pretending to be the girl. I'm, doing kind of all the social media marketing stuff. So there's like different elements there. People will talk to the girls on social media as well on OnlyFans. What we had realized is that over time, if you're a subscriber and I'm talking to you on like social media and then I'm talking to you on OnlyFans, if the back-end management isn't communicating, well then the subscriber starts to notice that something's weird. So that's when we were like, oh, we need to change kind of the way that we do things. And instead of me doing all the girls on the marketing and the OnlyFans manager doing all the OnlyFans stuff, we would split the girls in half and you'll do the full life cycle. So then that's when I started doing account management. And then that's when I started to see everything, because your role is to look through all of the vault. So where all of your content is kept is this thing called a vault. So I had to look through all of the vault content and like get very familiarized with it. So basically I'm looking through all this porn and sexualized images. I've never consumed pornography before. When I actually got onto the back end and started to see everything, that's when I was like, oh my gosh, like I can't do this. I was just malfunctioning. Like, you can imagine, it's porn. You're seeing people have sex. You're seeing people, do things to themselves. You're seeing people like just all the things that come with that bracket of pornography. But I know these girls, like, this is weird. Like, that's a really poor way to articulate it. And that's the only way I can articulate it, is it didn't make me feel good. It made me feel weird. And it was just really uncomfortable.
OnlyFans has helped normalize sex work for a new generation. It's glamorized online, sold as easy money and empowerment. But for many, the dream quickly becomes a nightmare that can't be deleted.
So you've got the girls that like immediately sign up, and this is all kind of fairly new for them. It's super exciting. And, we're throwing these parties and all the things. It's like, wow, like I get to come to this multi-million-dollar house, and how cool is this? And, the cars and the dinners and all that. Of course, with anything, it's so shiny in the beginning. It's so cool. It's the fast life. It's all the things. But then, of course, you have along the spectrum of severe mental health with a lot of these girls. They'll be posting how elite and luxurious their life is, but they've been in bed for 3 days because they can't function. You've got girls that hate what they're doing, feel like that's their only role. You've got girls that have different stage names because they have stalkers and they have to deal with that. The substance issues, every type of spectrum you can think of, it kind of exists within it. The ones that think this is mad, the ones that hate it, the ones that just do it because they feel like they can't do anything else. I think that we live in this social media era, and I don't know how many more people have to say it, and I know that we all get so influenced by it, but it is all fake, especially when it comes to like these hypersexualized women that are posting their holidays and their items and their bodies, and that like the amount of girls that I knew at the agency and just knew in that life before that are getting the mummy makeovers, that are getting the BBLs, the butt, like the face is done, like hundreds of thousands of dollars just on their bodies. But then they'll be like, oh, going to the gym today. And it's like, no, you're not. You just bought your body. And so it's like, there's even that element of it. Then you'll see that they're on all these trips and you're like, how can you do that? You must be affording that through your OnlyFans. No, they're not. They're literally doing it through sugar daddies. We just have to remember that so much of this stuff is not real, especially the ones that like go to America and go to Dubai often. It's all paid for. I literally knew girls at the agency that are like, yeah, we have some really weird guys that like get off to like buying us trips, and we just have to hang out with him and like do weird, like, and all that, like whatever it is. So I just want to emphasize that you might see these OnlyFans lifestyles and correlate it directly with OnlyFans. But realistically, no, a lot of these women are doing in real life prostitution. They do have sugar daddies. They're doing weird stuff to get these trips. It's all fake. Their bodies are fake. They face tune everything. They're probably addicted to some sort of substance, have severe mental health issues, and hate their lives. But again, digitally, it's all hunky-dory. And so I think that as harsh as that is, I'm so sick of people just kind of fluffing around with words. It's like, I saw this in real life. Girls that have hundreds of thousands of followers travel the world, do all of this stuff, and they literally hate themselves. But people would correlate all of their success to their OnlyFans. And so I just want people to understand like the harsh reality of it. And then for men that are like curious to subscribe in any capacity, because curiosity is kind of what gets them, you are being consumed, you are being manipulated, and you are talking to some dude that is trained in this thing called the girlfriend experience to literally extort money from you.
Girls as young as 14 are being groomed to believe their worth is in their appearance, sometimes even with their family's encouragement. But once your content is out there, it can be traced, leaked, resold, and even used to blackmail you. A digital footprint is forever. And when you sell your body online, what happens when your content escapes the paywall?
I had gone into this like weird space on the internet where it was like I found like the white pages or yellow pages, whatever you want to call it, of OnlyFans. And what we had noticed is that like the top search categories there was like teen, fresh teen, and barely legal. And in pornography at that time, that was the top searched categories. And then we had a look at our agency and realized the girl that we lied and said was fresh 18, she was making the most money. So we're like, oh, okay. So of course there's a correlation here. The younger, the better, in quotation marks. So then we're like, okay, as we're recruiting, recruitment looks like you're literally scouring the internet looking for people that are already posting provocative photos. Because if they're already posting provocative photos, it means that they're either more likely to already have an OnlyFans account, or they're more likely to be inclined to do something like this because they're already posting stuff like that. So what you'll do is you'll literally just scour the internet. You'll look for girls that looked young, that were posting provocative photos. Sometimes you had like a requirement for followers. So there needed to be like, they had this amount of followers or whatever. And then from there, you literally just cold message them and be like, hey, we saw your profile, we love your vibe. Have you ever considered doing OnlyFans, or have you ever considered management, like insert whatever? You have to market yourself so you can get people to purchase you. And so that's what's happened in this era, is that through social media, we have made ourselves the product. And you see that like on, like less severe levels with like influencers are the product. Like we live in this era of personal branding. So you're like, people follow people invest in people more than they do in businesses, more than they do in companies, more than they do in movements. So it's like, if you can position yourself as someone to follow, then by default, whatever you promote, people are interested in. And so now that OnlyFans has come along, it's like, okay, how do I promote myself as much as possible? How do I promote a lifestyle so then people want to purchase into that, so then I get money? And so that's what we see has happened here, is that people are promoting themselves. They're promoting this lifestyle because at the end of the day, they get money for it. And so it's like, what we see though is just on like a mass scale this. And because people are getting the likes, because they're getting the followers, because they're getting the comments, or even like back home in Australia, sex workers get brand deals. They get mainstream brand deals and do collaborations with companies that target kids. And it's like, we're so desensitized because we live in this era of personal branding that all of this is normal. So of course you're going to correlate, well, she got a brand deal, she has all these followers, she does OnlyFans, therefore to achieve those dreams, I have to do OnlyFans too. So that's where it becomes this insidious thing.
Sex work has evolved with social media. These agencies have built a funnel straight into the porn industry. Victoria says the agency became a modern-day pimp. Whether she liked it or not, they were profiting by grooming girls to become sex workers.
This is like a $97 billion industry that's doing this. And so the porn industry, of course, is going to adapt an exploitation with the times. It makes sense as to why people would then lean towards this. And then, it's so desensitized because being sexualized gets rewarded that now it's just the normal mainstream thing.
Places like the Bop House in LA act as virtual brothels where young girls call themselves mattress actresses.
Aisha, how much have you made since joining the Bop House on you know what?
I've made like 8 million and maybe, like 10 cents.
Gotta throw the cents in there, can't leave it out.
Yeah, cents count.
Come on. Summer, how much have you made since joining the Bop House?
2.3 million?
Alina, how much have you made since joining the Bop House?
I make 1 million per month, so do the math.
All right, so this is the most requested video, the Bop House tour. So come on in. Let's show you guys around.
There's more upstairs that we'll get to, but this is just a good little hangout spot. We make TikToks back over here. I know you've seen them in the videos. This house is so big.
We just don't know how big it is.
This is 1 bedroom.
Oh, this is
Very
cute.
nice. Yeah, very cute, very cute. But
First
then there's
time I'm
other
seeing
ones
it.
all around down here, but there's people sleeping, Bob's sleeping in them right now, so we can't do that. All right, up the stairs we go. This is where all the magic happens.
It's basically run by this girl, Sophie Rain. A really good documentary for people to watch, I think, to understand like how these social media juggernaut influencers kind of operate. Is there's this documentary, I think it's called like Kidfluencers on Netflix, and it's about Piper Raquel. but it explains the format and the framework that's used. And so we kind of see in this rise of social media, you see this in sitcoms, you see this in bands, like there's always the main guy and then there's like the friendship group around them. And so you just have taken that and replicated that in social, like sitcoms, in bands, now in social media. And so then basically this framework has just been copied and pasted to Sophie Rain, who's like the main OnlyFans girl. She's got this mega mansion in LA and she's got all of her friends that all do OnlyFans and they're all bop girls and they literally look like they're 12. And they do childlike content and they show how fun their house is and all the skits that they do. And one of them shows all the designer that she buys her mum and look how wholesome this is. And like, we just go to this house and hang out. Like Piper Raquel's literally a 17-year-old girl that goes and hangs out at the Bob House. And it is all a bunch of women that do porn and promote this lifestyle through this content. And I think that the Bob House has like 3.2 million followers on TikTok. It's massive. And so what is that, again, influencing young girls to think? I always ask young people, do you watch Bob House content? And all of those little girls always put their hands up. And it's like, this is a soft grooming tactic to desensitize you, to make you idolize this type of stuff, to make you think that it's normal, think that it's desirable. So then you want to go and do that. And that's the dreams you dream because you're like, well, look at the house, look at this. Look, again, look at the reward of this. Therefore, this must be okay. But a lot of people don't understand this. They think it's just entertainment. They think it's a bit of fun. And it's like, no. Let's pull on those threads. Let's go a little deeper. Let's understand the mechanism that's working behind this and what this is doing to our culture. Because now you'll have young girls that literally come up to me and be like, I watch Bob House content and it makes me want boys' attention. I don't want to do that. How do I not have this yearning to just want boys' attention? And these are like young girls. But you know what it is influencing? Probably millions of young girls to think that their only value is how can they be hot? How can they act in a sexualized way? How is their value and identity placed in the attention of men, which leads them to do things they don't want to do. And then they have this guilt and shame and remorse and or like just feel horrible. They hate themselves. It influences young boys to think that this is a desirable woman. So therefore, I'm not interested in a woman unless she sexualizes herself so I can commodify it. So again, I know it's a lot, but I just hope that whoever's listening to this can understand that these things run a lot deeper. And again, it's not to attack the people, but it's to focus on the problem, which is this industry, and look at what it's doing. Because this affects like us, we're young adults. How difficult is it to navigate the landscape of even dating when you have a culture that's screaming at you through stuff like this? Even on these micro levels, we can see how big of an influence this stuff has.
OnlyFans was designed to fulfill any fantasy for a price, no matter how degrading or disturbing.
There was a custom request that someone had asked for, and it was, can you blow up balloons to a particular size? And can you put these specific sandals on and stomp on the balloons? And people are like, haha, like he's probably just trolling. And I'm like, no. Someone paid good money to get a girl to do that. And the fact that he had specific requirements for an obscure act shows that he sexually gets off to something that is so bizarre and weird. So again, people need to pull on threads. That's weird. And we're fulfilling that. Why? What, like, again. And so I'm like, that one really disturbed me. And then the other one that really disturbed me was someone had asked, can you recreate that, like, someone's like hanging on a ledge and they're holding on by their fingers and you're like stomping on their hands? And he's like, they don't have to be in danger in real life, but can you make it look like they're in danger? Wait a minute. What? We know that there is a dopamine cycle to pornography. And so it's like, when this doesn't work, you need this. It's the exact same as drugs. And so it's like, you need to go more extreme. So again, are we facilitating someone acting out, hurting someone in danger? And then when does seeing it digitally not work for them anymore? And then when do they actually have to go out and hurt someone to get that rush. And so it's like, again, people say, well, it doesn't hurt anyone. People can do whatever they want. And I'm like, do you really want people walking around doing whatever they want? Like, this will not be a safe world in any capacity. But what OnlyFans does is it facilitates that. It says any fantasy, any sick and twisted thing you want, we will fulfill it for a price. That is a really scary thought.
Close to 90% of OnlyFans users are married men. Millions are hiding a second life behind lock screens.
Why are married men falling for the girlfriend experience on a porn website? There's a huge cultural conversation, I think, that needs to be had. I hope that, you know, whoever does listen to this, it shatters that illusion. And there is a whole industry that is targeting you, that is softly manipulating you. It wants you to look at that girl on Instagram and before you know it, be at her OnlyFans, so then they can make money off you. And yeah, they're literally manipulating you through chatters in third world countries to get as much money off you as possible. There is no such thing as like organic porn. All porn is fake. Like, it's all manufactured. It's all fake. It's all staged. Unless like you're putting security cameras in someone's place and they don't know about it. Like, you know what I mean? And so I think that that's a huge thing that people need to realize is all porn is fake. 88% of porn on mainstream platforms is violent porn and shows some sort of violence towards women, with women showing like a neutral or positive reaction to it. So it's like, what? So you're saying, oh, just, you know, don't go have sex, but go watch porn, which is this fake, unrealistic expectation that shows violence towards women to some capacity. What are we programming our little boys to think? You know, and we hear this all throughout schools. I have a friend that goes into schools all around Australia of what is happening to women. There is like a violence against women crisis that is happening in Australia for how many women are getting murdered. And it's like there is a direct correlation, and I think you have to be quite naive to not believe that through this over-sexualized culture, the acceptance of pornography, how can you not see that that directly correlates with women being hurt? You know? And so it's like porn is not an educator. It is not a tool for people to understand sexuality, to understand how to interact with the opposite gender in intimate situations in any capacity. It is something that commodifies you. It's something that looks at as a person as a transaction, and no one wants to feel that way. And it completely desensitizes and destroys what marriage is, and people don't want to accept this. What do you believe? What is your perception of sex? I think the lens that you view sex is the lens that you view a lot of things, you know, and that's again a bigger conversation on values and identity.
While it's possible to make millions of dollars on OnlyFans, the reality is most creators earn less than $200 a month. Only 300 people out of millions make more than $1 million a year. And the real winners? Well, that's the agencies and the platform, selling a fantasy that uses women to make billions.
Even when people ask OnlyFans girls, like, how much did you make? Statistically, you will make $180 a month. That is the average wage of an OnlyFans girl. Of course, people can make money on OnlyFans, but again, it's because there's these inner workings behind the scenes, but at what cost? A lot of people say that this takes the manipulation, the coercion, like all that, like it puts the power back in the girl's hands, like all the things, right? So it's like, imagine if, and it gives them the autonomy. Well, imagine if you're on OnlyFans, I've asked for a custom request, you don't want to do it, but I'm sitting there hounding you. I'm putting up the dollar figure. You're going to go, ooh, okay, yeah. Well, why not? Because you're actually being softly influenced by your subscriber. You're being softly influenced by the agency that wants you to do these things to make more money. And so then before you know it, you're doing some pretty crazy stuff. And you don't even know how you've got here because you're like, wait a minute, I never said I'd go that far. But then there's this allure of the money, the pressure. And so that's how you see things do get to that more extreme level. And girls will be like, I never wanted to go there. And then they ended up going there. One of the girls at the agency was like, I hate doing OnlyFans. I don't want to do it anymore. Gives me anxiety, all the things. And I was like, okay, babe, cool. Let's sit down and let's get you involved in the actual business side of things. So we sat down and I looked at her and I said, so what are you good at? And she goes, I'm good at being hot. And I went, no, babe, like, come on. Like, what are you good at? Like, I thought she was joking. She goes, no, Vic, I'm not good at anything else. This is the only thing I can do. And that was a conversation and it was done. And I'm like, that is so sad And the thing is, I knew this girl, her family would tell her that the only thing she can do is OnlyFans. What? And so imagine literally you believe that your only value in this world is to get naked online. That really upsets me because I knew that girl and she had so much value and deserved to do so much more in her life than just to get naked online and think that that's all that she could do, which really upsets me. I had hosted an event back in Australia. I'd co-hosted one. And so the other person I'd done this with invited a bunch of people. This girl rocks up. I look at her. I'm like, what are you doing here? She goes, what are you doing here? And it turns out it was one of the girls from the OnlyFans agency. And I had actually trained her in being an account manager and she had an OnlyFans. And she told me that the week after I left, she left. And she's left OnlyFans and she has a new job now and she's so proud of herself and her business is booming in like a totally different industry. And she was like, Vic, I can come to an event like this and I don't have to lie and say that I'm just a content creator. I can be proud of what I do. I have capacity. You know, I'm so thankful that I had a hobby and that I could leave that life. And it was just such a fulfilling moment of like, again, that lens of like, even that wording, I'm so glad I had a hobby. I'm so glad I had an out. Like I can do something else. And it's so devastating because a couple weeks later, she had actually put up that someone had all of her OnlyFans content and went and sent it to all of her new clients. And that is devastating. Imagine you get out of this industry, you're so proud of yourself, you're on a roll, you're like, look at all the things I'm achieving, I do have value. And then someone literally sends all of your naked pictures to your brand new clients as you're building a new life. That is so devastating and people don't understand that. And so it's like, it might not even be that, well, it's on the internet for forever, but it's like, it's probably in someone's phone forever. I just don't think people talk about that enough.
In her final weeks at the agency, Victoria says she could barely stomach another day of watching her friends degrade themselves for money.
I didn't feel good. I'm really struggling every single day to do my job. And I started to ask questions at the agency and I said to people, like, what do you think about what we're doing? And people were like, it's like a safe injecting heroin room. People need a safe place to do drugs. We give people a safe place to do porn. And I just wasn't satisfied with those answers. And so I was like, well, maybe if I do a big enough deed of good, it'll offset all the bad that I'm doing. It'll make me feel better about myself. So I was like, okay, I'll go overseas and I'll help refugees. That's like an extreme act of good. And so I had remembered that there was like this church I went to as a kid that had like a refugee program. So I was like, sick, I'll sign up for that. I was building a medicinal cannabis company at the time too. So I was like, cool, I'll go overseas. I'll help a bunch of refugees. By the time I come back, a cannabis company will be up and running. Don't have to work at the agency anymore. Happy days. I signed up at this church that I'd gone to as a kid for this like outreach program. But that application never went to the outreach department, but instead the young adults pastor got an email saying that Victoria wants to reach out to the church. Here's her number, call her. So I get a call from this young adults pastor one day and she's like, hey, I heard you want to come down to church. And I kind of like alluded to what was going on, but I didn't really say. But I come to church on a Thursday and I remember sitting in my car at the front of this church being like, I cannot walk in there. I'm such a bad person. I will literally burst into flames. But I walked in and I just word vomited for hours to this beautiful woman about all the things that's going on. And, you know, I sell porn. I don't know. Everyone tells me it's good, but I don't feel good. Like, help her. And she just goes, I really think you should come to church this Sunday. I think you'll really resonate with the guest speaker. So I come to church on a Sunday and the guest speaker in church is literally talking about this over-sexualized culture. She's talking about the impacts of OnlyFans. And she said this line and she goes, Christians are supposed to be the salt and the light of the earth and they have failed and we are destroying the next generation. And it just like clicked something in my heart and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not crazy. What we are doing is wrong. And so when she finished speaking, I literally ran down to her and I just went up to her and said, hi, my name's Victoria. I work for an OnlyFans agency and I hate myself. And that was on a Sunday. And by the Friday, I quit the agency, walked away from everything. 8 weeks later, I'm baptized. And yeah, I've been talking about this ever since. And that was almost 2 years ago.
Victoria has faced her fair share of backlash for speaking out against OnlyFans. Not everyone agrees with her take, but she says it's important to have the full context and to stop glamorizing a world that is built on illusion and fantasy. She says the porn industry is doing far more harm than good. The agency even tried to sue Victoria for speaking out, but failed in its lawsuit attempt. It's since closed down its operations. We've also contacted Onlyfans for their right of response to this story.
You have people saying that I'm not a girl's girl. You have people saying, like, who cares? Who are you to talk? And then you've also got the other end where you have parents and mothers that are like, this is destroying my child's life. I've had this happen. I've had, young kids being like, I'm addicted to porn. I need help. I think that the biggest thing is people are just being fed one side. And so it's like, it's not about shoving an ideology down people's throats, but it's just saying, hey, there's another side to this story. There's another world out here that you haven't considered. How can we give you all the information? How can we be honest and transparent about everything? And then you can make a well-educated decision now, where right now it's just this, you're just hearing one side of the picture and it's destroying people's lives. It's like with smoking. Everyone knows that it's bad. Everyone knows that it's probably going to kill you. But at least now we have that information and then you can make a decision for yourself. People deserve the right to make a well-informed decision and not be fed a lie and manipulated. Especially when it comes to the lens of social media, it actually is so much deeper than what you think. And sometimes it's good just to consider, what am I consuming? What am I letting influence me? How is that impacting me in my everyday life? And just understanding that there is literally an entire industry and an entire, underbelly ecosystem that is targeting a generation to softly manipulate you into doing this type of stuff. So then an industry can make money off you. And that's just kind of the reality of what's happening. So I think it's just, sit, consider, what are you consuming? How is that impacting you? And hopefully, if it doesn't align with your values, you can make some adjustments.
Thank you for listening to The News and You. Your support means the world. If you believe in the work we do at The News and You, sign up to our Patreon. It really is the best way to keep this going and be part of the Newsies community. I'd be so grateful if you can share the love by leaving a rating and review. It'll help spread these stories even further. What are your key takeaways? If this story impacted you, or even made you see the world a little differently, why not share it with your friends and family? Until next time, remember, your story matters, and there's a shared truth behind everything.